Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have an update to share about one of Trump's Capitol terrorists. It's time for an episode of Where Are They Now?
Matthew Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
So Evan Neumann is not someone that I've had a chance to profile yet in a video short. I apologized. I kind of put his story on the back burner because he was reportedly on the run, so he hadn't been arrested yet. Well, now we know where he ran to, and you're not going to be surprised that he's a complete and total hypocrite. Here's the deal. Neumann is a 48-year-old California resident who was seen at the Capitol wearing a MAGA hat. He had a gas mask with him that he put on at various points in time. At one point on January 6th, Neumann was seen and heard on body cam footage approaching a line of officers, and he tells one officer with the initials of JM that he's, quote, defending the people who are going to kill your fucking children. They are going to kill your fucking children. They are going to rape them. They are going to imprison them. And you're defending the people that are going to do this to your children. So seemingly a Q loon. Then, according to court documents, Neumann stepped away temporarily. He then came back and continued to berate the officer. Neumann, again, is seen and heard on body cam footage saying that the officers, quote, kneel to Antifa because they're little bitches. Then he said that the officers have, quote, no pride, no honor, you're nothing. Then he told Officer JM that they were going to be, quote, overrun. And he stated, quote, I'm willing to die. Are you? The statement of facts also says that Neumann, at one point after that, grabbed the metal barricade that police were standing behind, and he forcefully shoved it into the line of officers. That was the word they used, forcefully, including this officer JM. And then he and the officers started wrestling over control of the barricade, and Neumann tried to push it into the line of officers once again. So Neumann then released his grip, apparently, on the barricade with his left hand. And that's when prosecutors say that he reached over the barricade to either try to grab or strike Officer JM. Immediately following that, it says that he then, with a closed fist, punched towards Officer JM and the officer to JM's left. And he appeared to make contact, is what it says. So the document goes on to say that after he struck the officers, or at least appeared to strike the officers, Neumann was joined by a large group of the mob, and then they successfully ripped the barricades away from the officers. So at that point, Officer JM tried to regain control of the barricade. He tried to wrestle it away from Neumann, but it states that Neumann then lifted the barricade off the ground, and they said he used it as a battering ram. He rushed towards the officers, and he struck the line of officers with that barricade. After that, they say, and it shows on body cam, that he retreated, but he remained on the Capitol grounds until after 5 p.m. And remember, there was a curfew imposed. So the officers were ordering him to leave. He refused to leave when he was ordered to do so. And at that time, he then called those officers motherfuckers and fucking murderers. Like I said, this was all caught on body cam footage. So Neumann was placed on the FBI's most wanted list for the January 6th terrorists, and they issued a be on the lookout for video and photos of him. And then they were contacted by a family friend who identified Neumann and told them, oh, this guy lives in Northern California. So they started surveilling him. The FBI actually followed him to the airport, to the international airport, and interviewed him there on February 16th. And Neumann admitted that he was in DC on January 6th, but he refused to say whether or not he entered the Capitol building. He also admitted to interacting with officers that day, but he declined to answer their questions when they asked if he had had any physical contact with these officers. So Neumann was allowed to go free. They charged him eventually with assaulting officers, civil disorder, entering a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct in a restricted building or grounds, and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. So if convicted, and if he was ordered to serve consecutive sentences for his crimes, Neumann could be looking at more than 15 years behind bars. We know that that hasn't happened. That probably isn't going to happen in this case. But he has now made everything worse for himself because he has fled the country. Neumann is also doing interviews in these foreign countries with the foreign press, and he's making himself out to be a victim. He's claiming that the charges against him are, quote, unfounded. And in an interview with Belarus One, he admitted to selling his home, sold his home apparently in the spring, and then he traveled to Italy, he said, in March. From there, he took a train to Switzerland, then he drove to Germany and Poland, and then he traveled to Ukraine, where he rented an apartment, and he was living there for 4 months, but he believes that he was being followed by Ukrainian authorities. So that's when he decided to cross over the border into Belarus on foot. He traveled to Belarus, and on August 15th, he tried to cross the border and they detained him. So he's now seeking asylum in Belarus. And the press in that country is totally helping to push his bullshit narrative of victimhood. His interview with Belarus One was titled "Goodbye, America." And the host stated, quote, "Judging by his story, Neumann is the same type of simple American whose shops were burned by Black Lives Matter activists." The host said that after the 2020 election, Neumann, quote, "sought justice and asked uncomfortable questions." That's what he was doing, guys. He was just asking questions at the Capitol. And now they say that he, quote, "lost almost everything and is being persecuted by the US government." He's being persecuted. So persecuted that the guy is at an international airport and they question him and let him go. Yeah, sounds like a really horrible case of persecution. And Belarus, keep in mind, according to the Daily Beast, is often described as, quote, Europe's last dictatorship. So how ironic and hypocritical. January 6 terrorists, so many of them claimed that they wanted to take back America, right? Take it back from the so-called communists on the left. And they wanted their so-called law and order, Orange Mussolini, back in charge. Yet Neumann is unwilling to take responsibility for his alleged violent and illegal actions on January 6th. Law and order? Really? And then he flees to a country that's literally run by a dictator, a country that's a leftover of Russia's communist regime. Seriously, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's just too good. These people don't want law and order. I'm not saying everybody that went to the Capitol that day is the same as this Neumann guy, but the people who committed violence that day and who literally used terroristic acts to get their way, they don't want law and order. They don't want free and fair elections. They want their way. Like this spoiled brat, tantrum throwing children that they are, that they proved that they were on January 6th. That's what it boils down to. But he runs away. He's so willing to die, tells the cop, "I'm willing to die, are you?" But yet he's unwilling to go to prison. He's unwilling to take the consequences of his actions. Yeah. Real tough there, guy. Real tough, Neumann. All right. As always, thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.